It is June 9th in the year 2026, and I am now coming to you from Crestone, Colorado, which is a little bit longer than about an hour from Salida. And there's a number of reasons in which I have chosen to take off suddenly without planning. Part of it has to do with the beginning of summer. And there's a pretty heavy population there with a lot of people there for the business side of things. Then, of course, with more people comes more EMF radiation, and then doing some research online with regards to some of these places that I visited, even though they're mountain towns and even though they're rural, many of these municipalities have modernized with the 5G and the 6G and the smart meters. And so, even though it's 2026, and these studies have come out a long time ago about health effects, and there are people out there that have a level of sensitivity that is not recognized nor tracked by science, along with other things that are not recognized by science, but it still is a fact. And so, one of the things that I was picking up on is with more people, more cell phones, more texting, and then the infrastructure basically within Salida, it's basically a petri dish, it's a bowl, right, where the signals are basically bouncing back and forth. And so basically for sensitive people, one needs to actually take a break. Hopefully my levels here are right where they need to be. Okay, so we're a couple minutes into this. So I am in Crestone, Colorado. There's actually more dispersed camping. Whether or not it's more spiritual or not is a matter of opinion. It's a place full of legends. Of course, Christopher O'Brien wrote several books about it, which I interviewed him a decade ago and then reposted the interviews with him. So it is a vortex, but it's also interesting. I was talking to somebody who works at the liquor store in Salida, and then she was talking about growing up in this area before it became popular in Moffat, before it became expensive, and just pretty much talking about some of the things that I already knew, the pretentiousness nature, the cult-like nature of the regulars, and then some of the things that were in the news, including a dead body that was venerated. And then, of course, you have the Crestone Energy Fair, and they're connected to the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, who pushes fake news and disinformation about solar flares and solar cycles, predicted a grand solar minimum, and we saw the opposite. So the people that are involved in the energy fair are working with people involved in disinformation. So I'm not planning to get involved in the scene here, but just work on my own writing, as long as the weather permits. So what I gathered from Google last night was that there's this wall here. That's the big attraction. It's some sort of a barrier between, this part of the world. And the visual from Neverending Story comes to mind. I'm actually quite tired at the moment. I'm out of coffee, so I'm getting ready to leave, but there's a storm coming in. But yeah, if you've seen the scene from Neverending Story where he's walking between the two pillars, and then the goddess eye begins to open and begins to focus on him, and his heart is being scanned. He is being tested whether he's worthy to pass forward. So that's interesting. The landscape in certain areas looks like that, and of course I've described Costia County as a land before time. So the whole San Luis Valley that I've been traveling through the last decade has a lot of different energy centers, but these environments definitely, and the culture, and the land, it impacts the consciousness, it impacts the people. And so one of the highlights about this place is its remoteness. Now, how many people have come and written fantastic things here? I'm not sure, but I know certain places are better for that writing and quiet contemplation, and then in the silence comes the brilliance. And what I found in Salida was there was too much static from what was happening around me. This morning as I left, they were looking for a thief, asking me if I knew that, just because I'm sitting there car camping, they think I'm in the network. They're not too bright. Survival in the modern day and age comes with being able to easily navigate the waters of the dump tards and come out on top. without being persecuted for knowing too much. This is going to be a 15-minute video. I've got the cat in the car. Let's talk about prices. Oreo cookies are $8. Pound of meat's about 6. Um, and then I saw some affordable produce. So budgeting food is somewhat of an art and science. I've got most of my stuff with me, but I left a big bucket of quinoa in a trailer near BLM land where I came from. No crap. And I have about 40 books with me, 40, 50 books with me in my car, top heavy on holy books. And then I started asking AI, is there a history of people writing holy books here? Or, oh yeah, yeah, there are people that are doing their own thing with analyzing some form of spirituality, mastering meditation, having their own cult, whatever. I saw one metaphysical store, 50% off. It's going out of business. Not to celebrate them going out of business, but I'm here at the right place at the right time to pick up on some crystals. So I know my cat is sensitive to energy. When I go and I find my campsite, there won't be a cell phone signal. That's fantastic. That's exactly. And actually, I was tracing it back and going, wait a minute. When was the last time I was in such an EMF light environment? 15 years, 20 years? I think this is the first time since 2013. So what, 13 years since I'm going into a dead zone for the EMF radiation. And of course, as if you've been watching me, you know that I think that this is a conduit for bad energy, however you want to extrapolate it, but that we're literally in these almost radiation chambers. And the CIA has actually done weapons and experiments with this technology on people. So it can provoke a human behavioral response, and that's what we're seeing from the schizophrenic tendencies in these dense population centers, and why some people that are home free will be struggling in certain environments, whereas other environments, and only so many people are going to be thinking like this. And I'm smart enough to come in and be quiet enough to only speak to where only so many people can hear me, to where I don't come in, and I'm not even going to promote myself here until I'm here for at least a few days or someone approaches me. But you got to be energetically ready if you're on the spiritual path to be in certain areas. Whether or not I'm successful engaging with others or finding some of my objective goals or reaching some of my stated goals, we'll see. But for now, it's a matter of achieving peace, knowing that it's not going to come from outside of me. It's not going to come from some therapist who can't show up on time in Salida. It's not going to come from hanging out with those people down at Riverside Park. It's going to come from writing my third book in the silence. You know, continuing to write the cosmology of whatever's happening with our world right now. With the social engineering of humanity and what is my particular role as an individual to leave behind some solutions. Continuing, I haven't gone deep into meditation for a long time, like Vipassana meditation, observing the breath, that sort of a thing. And this is an environment that would be conducive to just being quiet for 3 or 4 hours. Because I'm so sensitive to the EMF radiation, you know, just even going to a fast food restaurant and then going to a grocery store and then eating something. This constant dopamine and digital addiction, you know, obviously I'm on the screen now, constantly is engaging the mind. For the brain to really heal, you know, it's reading, writing, praying, meditating, building, if you're able to build, exercising, engaging in everything possible to get away from technology. So this place is pretty quiet overall in terms of the environment. Um, but this place has a fair amount of noise, which is good, conversation. And then outside of here, it gets real quiet. Then there's the private property where there's different things going on, and um, ashrams and temples. Um, and then of course the fair that comes up in the fall. So I think that I'm going to plan for possibly Arizona after the fall of 2026. There is no real like solidified plan for after the fall or the winter. There is just an awareness of how cold this place gets. This place gets cold, too cold for me and the cat. So it is almost, I don't know if it's inevitable, but unless I find a place to rent for say 500 a month or a certain amount to find a job, that continuing the BLM land adventure into Arizona may be the next step. And I am behind on certain chores that I need to take care of regarding oil change and perhaps some things that relate to maintenance. So I'm going to continue to get into meditation and reading, and then avoiding any type of perceived negativity. Like actually when I came in here, it just didn't feel warm. It felt very crowded. But I remembered to come in with a mental state of no expectation. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, let's get back to this. And I do get fatigued when I go from one area to another. I did say some certain things in another podcast, and just basically it was sensory overload with a lot of people coming in to um, Salida that looked like Emily, my ex. That was the difficult thing, was seeing a lot of people that look like Emily. And so I have to go into like a state of complete non-reactiveness because that is not the place. And then if I did research, it was suggested to me by someone that I was talking to that this place had very few people here that were in competition for the campsites. And so that's what I'm going to do now once the weather clears up and it's sunny, is go get situated on dispersed land for up to 14 days and then start to ground into the land. Drinking coffee there, eating food there, spending more than 24 hours there, maybe fasting for more than a day there, and then getting a lot of water. And then I have some superfood that I've kept with me. And then when the time is right, if there is somebody that can help me get my paperwork from my ex, the title to my car, and just deal with that trauma later on, that's the goal. It's 1044 for 144. And immediately when I looked at a license plate, I saw 144. I'm not going to even get involved in too much commentary on this place or around these people. I'm just going to come here and do these short little podcasts at this volume here, which basically nobody can really hear. They can just pick up on the fact that I'm talking about something, and then once I get into writing, then it'll get deep. And I'll just have to be willing to invest, basically, whatever needs to be invested to sit here for $3 or $4. Plus, there's a library. No gym, no place to shower. I have made it 40 days without getting under chlorinated water. And actually, believe it or not, by being in nature, just as I thought before, and being away from smog and being away from the dense population center, the BO factor is greatly, greatly, greatly reduced for those that don't know. So we actually literally can stink from being around pollution that is in the environment. It's very interesting. Thus, also, if we look at that and we look at it from another perspective, that we can also be affected positively by our environment in other ways consciously. Even if we're alone, even if we're doing our own thing and we're completely isolated. That is the warrior, spiritual warrior mindset that I am coming into Crestone with. Take a look at Crestone. It was interesting posting those interviews with Christopher O'Brien before we had that particular, before I came up here. Posting those interviews and then thinking about it, and then something just kind of triggering within me, talking to that case manager in Salida, and she recommended while I wait for some things that may or may not come through, like it could actually take years to get housing, she recommended this place. So maybe it's from this place that I'll figure out how I'm going to manifest my next step. Thanks for listening. Special thank you to those of you out there with your professional fields that hopefully are learning something from me and my journey.